with Sophie. I found, and this is like yard waste days tomorrow for garbage. Someone had thrown out an azalea bush. Technically, two azalea bushes that had been growing right next to each other. And they were just laying out by the curb waiting to get thrown in the garbage. Yeah, you can tell that they were grown right up next to each other because they both have those flat bottoms and they fit together with like puzzle pieces. Now the question is can we save these and can we turn them into bonsais? First object is to save them, which means get them into soil. Now, normally at the beginning of August in Carolinas, if you put a bare-rooted tree at the curb, it's dead because the soil, the sun would bake these. But we have had a few days of almost constant rain and cool temperatures. So I'm hoping that these roots have stayed wet enough that I can save them. So let's see what we can do. First order of business was find a big bucket and put some water in it from my rain barrels and put them in the water, because until I figure out the rest, I need these to be open to the air no longer than necessary. So I just put them in this big pot for now. Next order of business is to find something to put it in. These have a fairly big root base right now, but I'm probably going to be cutting a large of these big thick roots away, trying to favor some of the finer roots, but it's still going to need some pretty big pots. Now you guys saw this earlier. This was my resin Goodwill find. I bought it because it's got a lot of volume. Fairly good diameter, probably 10 to 12 inches across, probably. And again, now this one right here, pot that I've had for a while. This is actually an actually official pot. It is it's frost hardy, I should say. It won't crack or freeze. I've had things in this on and off throughout the years, but it currently was not being used. So it does have a little drain hole in the bottom here. Not a lot, but it might suffice. And the other thing was be using something like this. Basically, this is just a plastic basket that has a kind of like a woven sides. Act a little bit like a pond basket. It's got no holes at the bottom, but it would be draining out the sides anyway. It does have, unless I cover these with some screening material, then this has got its maximum height to here, but if I wanted to do it deeper, I could probably just cover up these handles here with some meshing material, and then it should be able to hold the soil in all the way up to the rim. So these are my three options. I'm going to take each of these plants out one at a time and see what I can do for the roots. I actually had to cut away a few of the longer roots already just to get both of them in the bucket. So we're going to use probably two out of these three options, and we're going to see which one works best. Okay, here's the larger of the two, and again, you can see you've got a very flat root base on that side. Tree's real flat. This is the side that faced the other tree. If you look at it from the other side, you're like, oh wow, that's pretty good. That's a nice root base. There's a couple thick roots in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can cut back some of the roots that are going to make it difficult to fit and difficult to lay flat. So we're going to just start off with, cut back some of these. Again, I'm trying not to let you see all just great views of my elbows all the time. That's a nice weird one right there. And so this one just kind of is all weird. It goes all the way over to there from across there. We'll probably never use that root. And it looks like there were some roots trying to grow. It's got like a little hollow. Let me bring you a close up to that one. It's got a little bit of a hollow there, and got some roots growing out of there. Another thing to consider is, what are we going to do with the top here? You can hard prune an azalea and it'll come back and it'll regrow. So I'm thinking of trying to prune back some of the mass on here, keep some of the smaller ones on the inside here. Anything that might be a potential new growth here. But I think right now what I'm not going to ever use is these ones down here. Going to get rid of some of those. And again, if this survives, hopefully we'll do is we'll get a bunch of growth coming from further up. But I think I just have to, part of this is I want to reduce the amount of leaves that this root system has to support. I think this is a dead one, we're getting rid of that. And because this root system is probably a fraction of what it was before. There were large branches that were cut off of this, laying on the ground next to this. So this was a much larger bush at one point. There we go. I'll cut off some of that. Come on, let's cut off some of that. I'm not really going to use any branches that low. And it's got a really nice thick trunk base on there. Again, if this eventually becomes the front, that's a fairly nice root spread there. Let's see. That one broke off a little bit. We're going to maybe cut that back to there, and I cut that back to there. Again, you can afford to be a little bit bolder with like essentially free material. I'd love to have this thing survive. I think it'd be pretty cool. Be my garbage azaleas. But it's hard to tell. We'll cut that there. Okay, I think that's all we'll cut back to. There's some greenery on it still. This is what they finished up with the canopy, or the remaining branches. A little green on there still, hopefully to support some photosynthesis. And then get this. See if there's anything we can flatten the bottom a little bit more with. Again, I don't want to see these finer roots. I'm going to try to leave as many of those alone. The thicker roots, you know, hopefully we can get some growth from those in terms of roots. But how much we can actually expect, I don't know. I'm going to cut back a little further on some of these bigger ones, just because if we're going to get some roots, I don't want to have them like way at the long end of a really long, thick root, and then have your fine roots. I'd like to have the fine roots closer to the trunk and the base of the tree. All right, so that's what we've gotten it down to. And I think this could fit into one of our pots fairly easily now. All right, just a question of which one. Change your plans, everybody. While I was rummaging around in my piles of stuff to try to see if I can find out where I put my used bonsai soil bucket, I found this thing. Now, this is one of my first attempts at making my own pots, and it is actually made out of a styrofoam cooler that I, again, found in the garbage. One of my neighbors apparently got those mail order steaks, and they came in giant styrofoam coolers. And I said, well, I'm gonna make something with these. The base is actually made out of the lid. This is made out of the bottom, and they're glued together, and they are covered with a thin layer of basically concrete. And I thought they'd last pretty long. I actually even sprayed up the whole things with Flex Seal. Yeah, sprayed it with clear Flex Seal. I even carved in little designs. This is a little bonsai tree. These are, I think, might be some Chinese characters here, or they might, that have to do with bonsai. On the back side, I even went as far as putting in a nice little Tai Chi symbol in there. And again, looked up some characters on the internet, and I forgot what I even put these in. Maybe this says Tai Chi, maybe this says bonsai, either, but it's a different. It might even be one might be Chinese, one might be Japanese. I don't remember. But when I saw this, I'm like, oh, this has been sitting here and unused, and it's a pretty ratty shape, but it is still enough to hold soil. And I think instead of putting these in two separate pots, I could have them in here, but separated from each other. They still can grow roots together, and then I'll have, instead of trying to find places for two trees, I just got to find a place for one big one. And so I'm going to take all of this down off there, and we're going to work the roots of the smaller of the two trees. So, okay. Again, I've already cut off a couple branches just to have fit it into the bucket. Completely flat on this side, and hopefully we can get some growth on that side, but I'm going to cut some of these ones. This is a very lopsided, they won't even lay flat. It just kind of wants to flop down and lay like this, which of course could be a planting angle, but I don't think I really want that. I really want it to be more growing a little bit like this than really kind of growing on its side. We can always go with that if nothing comes of the growth on this side. If nothing ever grows on in terms of roots on this side, then yeah, we can lay it down here, have all the roots on this side, and then maybe utilize some of these branches to kind of come back again. Since this again is fairly lopsided with its branches as well. And that is an option to think about, whether we should consider doing that right from the beginning and just kind of like chop this whole thing off and just say, okay, this is going to be laying this way, and then all of our new branches and our new leaders and all the stuff we're going to be chosen from whatever grows from here. I mean, that is an option, kind of more of a go with the flow option here. Question of whether or not I can fit it. It depends on how I arrange them. I might be able to make that work. Let's try to see if we can make that work. I think I may have talked myself into trying something different with this one. Let's see. Get a little bit of things straightened out here. If a lot of this stuff's not going to be in the soil eventually. One of the things I probably want to correct right here, you see I've got crossing roots right there. And two fairly thick roots crisscrossing. They look like they need to use the bathroom. The question is which one do I want to keep? Which one do I want to redirect? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can cut off this right here, the one that crosses the top. And yeah, maybe see if I can get in there, cut it a little bit more in this direction like that. And hopefully by cutting it at that angle there, like that, I'm hoping that I'll get roots that'll grow in this direction right here from that cut point. And I'm going to just go around here and see if I can eliminate some of these. Again, the crossing roots. That's another crossing root right there. So I'm just going to take that one off as long as I've sacrificed the other root for the sake of this bigger one. Let's see. There. Okay. Now that's what we got so far. This little twisty guy right here. Again, depends if it's going to be soil root like this. I mean, that might not be that bad, but again, if I'm cutting that off there, I might get growth over here. Okay. I'm going to cut this part off right here in favor of this thinner root here. And then just give these all a little bit more of a profile prune. Let's see, some dead wood here. Make sure it's dead before you cut it off. That one has one little leaf at the top. We're not going to be able to save all of them, but we can remove some of the clutter. And again, because this is a really thick branch that goes up to here, and if we are going to have it on its side and then use these more as its going branch, I'll probably do is I'll just take this off. Here's the true test of the ironwoods. These are not the ratcheting pruners. So root force situation here. There we go. That'll teach it a lesson. I think that one's probably alive. Let me just check to see. Yeah, that's green, so that doesn't have any branches on it, but that's not necessarily a problem for an azalea. This is its planting angle. like this, then yeah, we're probably going to want to encourage branches that go in this direction here. I'm going to just see if we can get these both in the that old styrofoam pot, and if so, then they're going to be potted in one pot. If I can't get them in both in there, then we might just go back to the original plan. Well, I was thinking of not showing this part, but it's so ridiculous I thought I'd show you. I'm using the latch hook mesh for the bottom of this. I'm just going to cut off a large piece of it. But once I started unfolding it, I realized this is a big thing that's got multiple folds. So I'm going to utilize the fact that it's got these nice little blue lines here. I'm just going to get a little estimate. And this pot has got a total of 5 holes in it. One in the center and one in each, essentially near each corner. And just cutting this to a roughly enough size to cover all 5 holes. There. Okay, that pretty much covers the whole bottom. Let's do a little soil mixing now. This is a combination of some soil that I have left over from repotting a few houseplants, mixed with a little bonsai soil, and now I've got a whole bunch of my used bonsai soil from my bucket here. And we're just gonna dump that all in there and just mix it all together. So we are not being too precious with the soil for these. Again, these are my garbage azaleas. We're going to try to give them a fairly good chance of survival, but we are not going to use the good stuff on them right from the start. Now, maybe if they survive and they're looking good, we'll use the good stuff on the repot, but that's probably not for another year to 2 years in this pot. First one here. Again, we've got lots of growth on this side. We're going to try to encourage growth on this side. Now, again, if I lay this down flat like that and have it be more of, maybe even have it more towards the corner here, and then having this towards the center, giving, again, all this area here is hopefully we'll all see new growth, and then they're far enough apart. I don't think they're going to be like when they were right next to each other. They really kind of kept each other from growing in this direction. They'll be separated by several inches. And again, not even having their empty spots facing in the same direction. This one's empty spots will face towards the middle, while this one's empty spot's going to face towards you, the viewer. And I'm hoping that'll get root growth here, root growth here. Again, this is going to be a little bit more laid flat, while this one's going to be a little more upright. Again, giving this, again, more soil room over here. I think this will work. And if not, if you don't think this is going to work, if you think that I've gone absolutely out of my mind, which of course is not outside the realm of possibilities, leave a comment in the comment section and I will respond politely. And probably even tell you you're right. Alrighty. base layer of soil goes in here. Put a little bit more there because we know we're going to put, that one's going to lay a little more flat there. Okay, let's not get carried away. And yeah, it's got about an inch of soil in that direction there underneath. And now we get our fingers dirty. Okay, now the other one. Again, I'm going to tuck down those roots into that little hole here. I'll lay it down. And what do we got here? Oh, it's a little, we don't want that. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing here a little better from that angle now. We may have to top this off with real bonsai soil. So you never know what you're going to need, so you don't throw stuff away. I could easily have tossed this thing in the garbage when I stopped using it. Oh, maybe a year? No, about 2 years ago was when I finally took out the tree that was in there and put it in something a little bit more. Ooh, there you go. Just kind of all goes. Put it in something a little bit more official, less converted styrofoam cooler. I don't even remember what it was that I had in there. I don't even know if it's still with us. You know, one of those things that, you know, didn't survive the repotting process or something like that. Should have left it in the styrofoam. It was doing fine in the styrofoam. Definitely worth it though to go in there and just not assume, oh yeah, that soil's around there. Man, I am finding there's pockets and pockets of stuff that I did not get it in there just by throwing it on there loosely. So it goes to show why it's so important that you do work the soil into there, a combination of using your fingers and using the chopstick, or in this case, a knitting needle, to just kind of like, oh, there's a void. Shove that stuff in that void. And all of a sudden, this pot that looked like it was full, we're going to have to find some more stuff to put on it, because there's more spaces in here than we anticipated. And you don't want those empty air spots. First of all, yeah, if you don't find them now, and maybe with watering, eventually that soil does work into those spots, but maybe the roots by that time have died because there was an airspace. But then if it does find its way in there, and then it's pull the soil off the top to go down inside. And now you've got bare spots on the top, and maybe you've got your surface roots are now dying off. So, oh yeah, look at that. That just keeps on going in. Yeah, so I'm going to have to cover more of this all here with more bonsai soil. I'm starting to feel like I got a lot more of them on that side. Now, over here, we know all our roots for this one are here. So this is where we're going to find the voids in the potting soil here. Shove, 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 shove. Get it all worked in there. Yeah, we're just opening it up, this spots here. And you just find that there's more space to put more stuff. Maybe we'll go up just a little bit. I might put a rock. Just so that doesn't go down any further. I might even put another rock on top of here so this kind of doesn't lift up. Having the soil tightly packed in is one way of keeping the roots in place, but again, that's not perfect. I could have gone to the trouble of wiring these in, but this is really, it's just meant to be like, okay, let's just quickly get these in some dirt. They've been laying on the side of the curb for probably at least half a day. I don't know when these were dug up. They may have been laying in someone's backyard for a week. I'm not thinking that that's the case. We just broke a root off trying to redirect it. I top this off with some fresh bonsai soil. And see, it looks a lot prettier. No one will know that I got it. I basically got garbage underneath it. But you select a little bit to kind of like hold it down a little bit, and maybe we'll work a little bit of that into those any remaining spots. But yeah, I think I'm out of used soil now. I think the idea of putting it all in one pot is definitely good. If I was trying to put them both in the same pot, I don't think I would have had enough, anywhere near enough to pot both these up in a separate pot using the recycled soil, the used soil. You know, sometimes you just don't outgrow that old habit picking through your neighbor's trash to find out if they're throwing away anything good. Here I am, 58 years old, and I still enjoy a good dumpster dive. Now here's that one root that I cut off that I was like, oh, I'll hopefully get the soil. Well, it's open to the air. So that would not suffice if we were ever going to get roots growing from there. So I got to actually bury that a little bit more significantly here. See if that still feels loose. this one in, keep it from falling down, and maybe this one here to keep it from lifting up. Oh, I made it a little heavier. Okay, there we go. So we can find a good spot for that. All right. That is what we're trying to do with our found on the side of the road azaleas. Okay. Once again, that's how the root, it looks like all those roots are covered. Again, if I lay that down on top, hopefully that'll keep them from getting lifted out or soil washed away. Alrighty, well, I'm gonna run this little water through this right here just to wet down all this top. We might get rain again, but again, that's not going to be too big of a problem. Okay, this is once again Brian of Brian's Budget Bonsai, and hopefully we have now rescued the azaleas from the landfill, and they will hopefully someday have a happy life as bonsais in my bonsai garden. And we're starting them off the best we can manage on short notice. In the meantime, let's have a dirty dirty stay cool, and happy bonsai.